All right, so we are officially live on here. So thank you guys for joining in. I have a special guest today. Her name is Kate Troyer, and our topic is we're going to talk about home wellness. Is this really a thing? When we think about our homes, we just think about laying our head or raising our kids or a place to have dinner, but it's really so much more in the energy that's inside of our home. So, if this is your first time joining me, my name is Andrea Wilson. I'm the broker and owner over at Brick House Realty, and I'm going to let Kate go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Andrea. So I'm Kate Troyer. You will find me on my website and all of my social media as Feng Shui Kate. But basically, I am a home wellness expert and lifestylist. And basically, what that means is I I work with clients to basically help them connect with their home, align with it, and then use it as this really powerful transformation tool in their lives. Because, like you were saying, it's really extremely important that we look at our environments as not only a reflection of us, but a way for us to kind of dig deeper into things that might be going on in our lives and to actually use them to manifest and create change. And I think, especially over the last 2 to 3 years, we've definitely noticed that our spaces have a more profound effect on us, whether that's positive or negative. And so I see a lot more people just being curious about, oh, hey, like, how can I use my home to kind of better my life, to serve me, and to use it as more than just a place that I come home to and go to sleep in. So that's basically what I do, and I work with clients now all over the country, and I'm actually getting ready to start my own. I've got the Home Wellness Collective, which is a community that will be starting at the end of this month as well. So I'm really excited.
So one of the reason why I reached out and thought it was a good time to really have this conversation is because the way the real estate market has been going, um, it we have seen like ups and downs, sellers market, and now we're seeing it shift back into a buyer's market a little bit. Even with interest rates a little bit higher, we're seeing that shift. And so,
Mhm.
because of that, we're going to get in real estate. It's important for real estate agents and sellers to really understand the importance of like the energy and just the setup of their home. Where before we were just literally putting a house on the market, there was no need for staging, little effort, no open houses because it was just going that quick. And so now I think what we're going to start to see is sellers and agents are really going to need to know how to communicate with the sellers. Of Sometimes I've been in houses where it just doesn't feel right in there. It may
Mhm.
be the way that the furniture is set up in the room. Just the energy is not and like looks nice, but you just get this different vibe. So I wanted to have this conversation to talk about what folks can do to kind of switch things up to give it like that. I don't know if you call it like a positive energy, but how to make someone it feel inviting when someone walks through the door.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you brought that up because I think, the reason that we know each other, for anyone that has no idea who I am, is because I owned a home staging company for a while. And the reason I kind of transitioned into what I'm doing now is because it wasn't that, I was still getting staging clients, but it was like, we don't want what you usually do. We just want you to come in and do this. And we only want it for like a week because the house is going to sell. And it totally took like the experience and what I loved creating out of that.
Yeah.
So now I have kind of used like that knowledge though as an opportunity to kind of help educate agents or sellers with how they can prepare and set up their homes, not just staging wise, but like you mentioned, changing the energy. So the first thing I would kind of put my focus on, and this almost seems like a no-brainer, but at the same time, I see it often forgotten about, is we're so focused on the inside of the home that we don't think about how important like that first impression is.
Mm-hmm.
So that your front door is extremely important, the front door and front entrance of your home. And from a home wellness perspective, your front door is really where new energy is not only finding your home, but it's also entering your home. So let's say if you never use your front door, or if, it looks kind of dingy, if you haven't swept off your patio or porch in a while, if you've got kind of a gross looking welcome mat. When you think about that, one, when buyers walk up, they're like, this doesn't look well taken care of. And if I like to think of, you mentioned energy, and I like to think of like if energy were a person, right? And it were walking down the street and it wanted to visit someone, why would it visit you? Is it going to visit the house that has the flower pots outside and the freshly painted front door? Or if it's dark out, a well-lit path that leads to the front door? Or is it going to visit the spot that just looks kind of like it hasn't been taken care of?
Yeah.
So that's really how you want to think about that. Energy is the same as just a human being, a person. And the way energy finds you is the way people are going to find you as well. So I think definitely paying a lot of attention to your front door. How does it feel? If you walked outside right now and stood in front of your front door, what is it, one, saying about you, how you take care of your home, and what's its energy? Like, does it make you feel good? Or are you like, oh, this is kind of neglected, So I think that's a really, really important place to start. And because it seems like such a simple thing, I think it often gets overlooked. We try and make, it has to be this big change and transformation. And really, you can move and change a lot of energy just by doing smaller things. I think number two for me would be decluttering. I mean, you're getting ready to move anyway. Why would you not be going through things? Like, do yourself a favor and start going through things before you move,
Yeah.
because you also want to be able to create a space for a buyer to come in and say, oh, this could also be my home. And
Mm-hmm.
if they walk in and it feels so heavily like you and your family, and their pictures splattered everywhere of you, and it's really hard for buyers to imagine themselves living there. And a phrase that I use with clients all the time is, you must create a space for the good that you desire. So if the good that you desire is selling your home, you've got to create space for someone else to come in. So if it's full of all of your crap and you're like, oh, I'll just take care of it when I'm ready to move, you're really doing yourself, a disservice. And I think when we're staging and preparing our homes for market, less is really more. If you stand in a room and you feel like you can't move around in it, get rid of some furniture, put it in storage. Even, I hate, if you have nowhere else to put it, utilize your basement or garage. Like, I know that's not ideal, but I think as a buyer, I understand when things are neatly organized in the garage, because someone's obviously moving. I'd rather tour the house and see the house in its best flow as possible, and maybe have some things in the garage, if that makes sense. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really important. And I also think you can't ignore simple, easy things like a room that needs a fresh coat of paint. Like, go ahead and do those things, because anytime that you're moving things around, you're bringing new into the space, you're increasing that positive energy. And then I would say, as agents, if you have a client that like just is not willing to do much, or maybe they have done things and like you mentioned, you just kind of walk in and you're like, this just doesn't feel good in here. And if you can feel it, other people can feel it too. whether they can determine what it is or not. And so sometimes, you might need to do just like a nice little space clearing. And, for those of you that sounds a little too woo woo and weird, I apologize, but it really can just kind of, if just going through the home with some intention, whether that's using sage or just like a spray or just intention, like maybe you don't even want to use anything with like, hey, let's just clear out any stagnant or stuck energy, and let's invite in an energy of flow and prosperity and happiness, or, whatever you feel that property is lacking. I think just some intention setting like that can be really powerful. And you can always call someone like me if you need, like somebody to get really down and dirty with it and do like more of a, a full cleansing or rearranging or something like that. But I think as agents, you guys hold a lot of power to be able to, make some transformations and help your clients with that.
Yeah. So if you guys are listening in and you want and have a comment, go ahead and type that in the chat. We'll go ahead and answer those questions. I do want to back up a little bit, Kate. When
Yeah.
you start talking about energy and feng shui, some people view that as kind of like a negative thing. It's like
Hmm.
they don't understand. And you kind of even touched about it, said burning sage through the house, right? And so some people really feel like, oh, that's kind of like this demonic thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to touch on that a little bit, for the people that may feel that it's out of reach or they don't believe in that, and just want to
Yeah.
make the overall point of that we're trying to get across there. And before you kind of answer that, what I want to say is, as a person that has toured hundreds of houses, I can absolutely say that I have walked in a number of homes and felt like something bad has happened here before, or I would like to be here. Like, you can just, no one can be home, the house could even be vacant, and you walk in, and that's the kind of energy and just feeling that you have as soon as you walk through the door. So when people say like, no, it's not a real thing, I have to say it is.
Yeah.
And as someone that has been in hundreds of homes, you just, it's just something about it that just comes in as soon as you walk through the door. Like if those walls could talk, you know?
Yeah. So let's just first talk about like what is feng shui, right? And I think that's why you'll hear me use the term home wellness over feng shui, because for me home wellness has kind of been like my practice with feng shui, and it picks on interior styling and decluttering as well. But what is feng shui? It literally is just the basically the acknowledgement that our external environment is a direct mirror of anything that's going on or has gone on internally for us. So that's literally all it is. It's not anything weird. It's just that your environment is a direct reflection of you. And
Mhm.
so, especially, and then those things that happen in that space because of you can get, especially if they're very strong emotions, can get imprinted on the space. Like if we believe that everything is energy, right? In Einstein's theory, everything is energy, then that energy doesn't just go away or go with you. You've put your energy into a space, just like if you're walking down the street and you're in a bad mood, other people walking by you can sometimes feel or sense that. Or if you notice if you're in a really good mood, more people just randomly will stop you and be like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" And you're like, "Wow, everyone's so nice today." But
Mhm.
really it's you. You're kind of attracting people to interact with you or not. And so whatever space that you live in most or work in most has that same effect on other people. That energy doesn't just leave. Like it might, you're kind of sharing your energy with the space and then it's there. So that's really all feng shui is just acknowledging that, hey, like my space is a direct reflection of me. And does that feel good or does it feel bad?
Mhm.
And if it doesn't feel good, okay, I can acknowledge that and I can connect with why it doesn't feel good. And now I can make some changes to make it feel better, which in turn reflects better on me, right? It's kind of like this continuous cycle. It affects you, you affect it. So that's really all feng shui is. So it's not really, I know, especially, kind of like in the location of the US that we're in, I've definitely found that when talking about it with people, they're kind of like, oh, really taken aback by like, oh, what is that? And then when I explain it to them, they're like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense, right? So it's not anything weird or crazy. So that's what feng shui is. And then on top of that, like you said, because certain things happen or certain people reside in those spaces, like sometimes you can feel that. And that's when you really need to either move some energy around in the space. I think this is where intention just becomes really important. Just like if you're intentional about what you are eating and putting in your body is going to see the results of that. So if you are intentional about what you're moving around, removing, putting into your home, you're going to feel the benefits of that within your space as well. So it's really kind of the same thing as, if you're intentional about building muscle and going to the gym, and then you're intentionally doing, the right exercises to build muscle, you're going to see the results of that. So it's really, about that intention. Then if your home doesn't feel well, or you as an agent go into a home that doesn't feel good, what are some intentions or some things that you can kind of bring to that space to maybe change that energy around a little bit? And that might start with a conversation with your client.
So, as a real estate agent, what are some of the things? So, I know you said focus on like that entryway,
Mhm.
doorway. Are there any other focal points that we should like focus on?
Yeah, I think decluttering is such a big thing. And I know it's like, and I always tried to take it when I was doing staging consultations in like this, like, you're getting ready to move anyway. Let's get a jump start on that. And just trying to paint the picture to them that, we need to not only declutter, but depersonalize so that someone else can come in and imagine their family portrait being hung over the fireplace instead of yours, and things like that. So front entry is really important. Things like small things are so big. Cleaning, having a good, doing a good deep clean is so important. And from all of the many, many, many homes that I have been into, I found that a lot of people don't think necessarily, not that their homes are gross, but they don't think about a deep clean.
Mm.
And a deep clean is not only gonna look, feel, and smell better, but it's also kind of removing some stuck or stagnant energy, right? And like bringing in this fresh, clean feeling. And then other little things like changing out light bulbs that don't work, so that every space is illuminated properly. I think those are just really, really big things. So depersonalizing, um, creating space, right? So wherever you can create space for a buyer to be able to imagine themselves living in the home, I think that's really important. So that can look like a closet, cabinets, things like that. Um, I didn't focus on that as much when I was a stager, but now I kind of realize how much more important that is. And I think that that kind of hidden clutter, I believe, kind of builds upon the energy that you might be feeling in the home, right? Like maybe when everything looks pretty good and you're like, why does this not feel right in here? It
Yeah.
might be because if you opened all the closets, things are basically going to fall on you, right? And as well as anybody, when buyers are going through a home, they open everything.
Yeah.
It's very rare that they just kind of walk in and are like, okay, it looks great, I'll take it. So that's something to be mindful of as well.
What about paint colors? How important is
Hmm.
that?
I think paint colors, I think paint colors are important. Um, when it comes to, this is more, I would say, of a designer perspective, because you're trying to sell your home, I think neutral is better. And I think neutrals with warmer undertones, even if you're going with like a white, you don't want a white that has a blue undertone that feels cold. You want a white that has more of a beige undertone because that's going to feel warm. So like a couple of my favorite white paints from Sherwin-Williams would be Greek Villa. I think is their most true creamy white that has no yellow undertones but isn't a stark white and doesn't have a cool undertone. And then White Duck, which is like a more beige undertone. Those are two of my favorites to use and ones that I recommended often when I was staging. If you need a little bit of a color, Mindful Gray is a great one. It's a really nice kind of like a grayish. So gray is very much, especially the cool grays are very much out in the design world, and we're seeing a lot more organic, warm kind of feeling colors and decor. And that's because I think because of COVID, we kind of like craved like bringing the outdoors in and having this more warm, cozy space. So Mindful Gray is a really good one that's like still has a hint of gray. It's a really nice mix between a gray and a beige. It's one of my favorites. So those three are really, really great. And I would say stay away from loud colors. And if you have them in your home, that's totally fine. But again, that more leans to your personality. And when you're putting your home on the market, especially in a buyer's market, you really want to be leaning towards like, how can I appeal to most people? And how can I make sure that it still feels nice and warm and cozy? You might not like it. Maybe you hate whites, but I think that's a really safe way to go and you're going to appeal to the most buyers.
Okay, so we kind of focus on a person that may be selling their house, so a seller. Now, what about the buyers who are going to be moving into a new space? And can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit? I know you do that alignment in your home. So, what can they do to align themselves or prepare for this new space that they're going to be moving into?
Yeah. So I think when you're moving into a space, do you want me to talk about as they're moving in or as they are looking for a place? Or maybe a little bit of both?
A little bit of both is fine.
Okay. So I think when looking for a space, I am very into intention and manifestation. And I think like being really clear about what you want, right, to start with. And I know that while there's usually not something perfect. I think getting clear though on what you want is really important so that you're not driving your agent nuts and yourself nuts, because when you'll take anything, then anything's available to you, right? And then we have a lot of indecision and like, oh my gosh, well, what if I choose this and what if I choose that? And now that's kind of the energy that we're leaving our old space with and we're bringing into our new space is like this kind of indecision. I saw this happen with one of our friends recently. Like they weren't very clear about what they wanted. They kind of just took something and then afterwards, oh, should I have bought this? Should I have done that? Da 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 da. And think about like that's the energy that you're bringing into your new home when really it should be this energy of like renewal and new beginnings and excitement. So I think getting clear on what you want and why you want it, and also how is like being clear on like how the space is serving you, because I think too as a society we get so caught up right now in like keeping up with the Joneses and like, well, my friend bought a $400,000 house, so my first house has to, and that's just like, it's almost silly to me, right? Like be realistic about how this home is going to serve you. How long are you going to live at it? Like what is that purpose? I think that's really, really important to start with so that you're bringing the right energy into your new space.
Mm.
Two would be really paring down before you, just like as a seller, before you're moving into a new space, go through all of your things, like really go through things. If you haven't used something in a year, you don't need to take it to your new home with you. Like 9.5 times out of 10, you don't need to take it with you, right? Just as the seller, you don't need to take it with you either. So I think, bringing less is more into your space. And then also, being willing to do that several times throughout the year. So I think it's really important to do it before you move into the space. And then you do it again as you're putting stuff away. And then you play around with things, especially furniture, decor, things like that. Play around with it in your space. And if it doesn't feel good in this new home, be willing to part with it. And I think something like that really goes on for a year. And I also would encourage people, don't buy things before you move into your new home, because what you think you want before you move in almost always ends up not being what you want after you live there. And I've done this myself. And I've seen so many people do it where you buy because you're so excited about your new house. And then you get in and you're like, oh, that doesn't fit there. Oh, what this room I thought was going to be my office is actually a better guest room or a den or whatever, because now you're seeing how you're actually using the space. Yeah. And so many people don't wait to see how they're going to use the space to start buying stuff. So then you overbuy, and then you're like, oh, I spent all this money and I don't even like this stuff. And then now your new home is filled with stuff that you don't even like, which is not good, right? Because if you don't feel good about it, that's the energy that you're, getting in your home.
Well, very good. Thank you for joining in and sharing that information with us today. How can people reach you if they want more information?
So if you want more information, please go ahead and visit my website, and it's just fengshui-kate.com. If I'm on social media, same handle, Feng Shui Kate. I'm super active on TikTok, and that's where I have the largest community. So I do a lot on there, but I do also do a decent amount on Instagram as well. So if you want to start looking at free resources, because this is kind of a new concept to you and you're like, oh, I'm kind of interested in this, but I'm also not sure about it, getting on my social media, checking out my website would be a really great place to start, to just kind of get some more information. And then you can see some of the different services I offer, and all that good stuff. So, and then my phone number and emails on the website as well, if you want to reach out personally.
Perfect. And then I'm going to share at the scrolling at the bottom of the screen. If you have any questions here at Brick House Realty, that's our phone number scrolling along the way. If this is your first time joining in with me, well, welcome. And I hope to see you back here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like, share, comment. But I look forward to talking to you guys again and talking to you, Kate, again. And thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andrea. Have a great week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for joining in, guys.